Hey guys, how are you? So today we're going to take a look at the iPhone 12 Pro Max. So I know this phone has been out for about a month or so, but it actually only officially came to the country this December. Now that's cool because we get to try out the whole iPhone 12 Pro Max experience with Apple's new update for Apple Pro RAW photos, and we don't have to go through the day one issues of the new phone. I'll preface our conversation by saying the iPhone 12 Pro Max is actually a really good phone, and a phone worth splurging on if you have the budget for it. Apple went back to a familiar design with the rounded corners and flat edges. It does make the phone a little harder to hold compared to the previous generation, but it is taller rather than wider. It's actually a design we haven't seen in the main line since the iPhone 5S and its physical form factor successor, the iPhone SE. This lets you, once again, play one of the most expensive game of dominoes ever, like what I'm showing you right now. The even larger 6.7-inch display on this new phone makes watching videos and playing games a lot more fun and immersive. The size increase is personally noticeable even if you're coming from the 6.5-inch 11 Pro Max, and it's going to be a lot bigger compared to the other form factors. Now, as a PSA, there is an ongoing discussion in the Apple forums where some customers are experiencing a green glow around the edges of the OLED screen for the iPhones, regardless of which iPhone 12 model you get. So if you're experiencing that, let Apple know. They're not taking replacements, if I understand correctly, but try to push your luck. Get the new phone. This is really expensive. Now, going back to what's new. The iPhone 12 line has what Apple is calling ceramic shield, which is supposed to make your phones more drop resistant in that when you drop it, it doesn't shatter as quickly. I'm not taking my chances. I have a tempered glass. I'll let somebody else do the testing for us. Now, the larger screen isn't the only reason you have a better watching experience and gaming experience with this new phone. The headline feature for this year's iPhone is 5G. This gets you smoother video playback and less laggy games even without a 120Hz display. Apple probably will figure that out next year. But how exactly does 5G work in a country that typically doesn't have a good relationship with data speeds? Surprisingly similar to how other countries are actually experiencing it, in that the rollout is slow, the speeds are inconsistent, and you're probably not going to be using this as often as you think you would. Now, before we get into that, I do want to mention that if you had two SIMs, I'm using an eSIM for my main carrier and then a physical SIM for my secondary carrier, and you're using both at the same time, you don't get 5G on either one. So if you do want to take advantage of 5G, you need to either remove that other SIM card or go to settings and then turn off the other lines that you're not going to be using 5G on. Hopefully Apple will issue a fix soon. Okay, time for the speed tests. I went around BGC, this is one of the locations globe tagged as 5G enabled, to see whether or not 5G was actually good or bad here. I ran the speed test a few times and I saw the fastest was 800 megabits. This was at the corner near the main office of Globe here in BGC. So to put this speed into context, CNET did a speed test across the different locations of their offices globally, and what they found was pretty interesting. So at 800 megabits per second, we're actually pretty good compared to the other regions CNET tested. For example, London in England had around 480 megabits per second and Seoul had around 600. So we're not bad. We're not the best. That goes to Los Angeles, California, where they got a whopping 1.8 gigabits per second, which is really, really fast. The 5G rollout in the Philippines compared to those other countries isn't so bad, but this was in 2019. Take it with a grain of salt. They could be better now. If you're in one of those countries, comment down below. I want to know how fast your 5G speeds are right now. Okay, but we have to be real here. 5G is still in its infancy here in the Philippines. Remember the corner I was at, getting those 800 megabits per second? Once I stepped 5-6 steps away from that corner, my speed dipped down to 400-500 megabits per second. It's still pretty fast, but if you move away and the speeds change dramatically, that's not going to be something you can rely on for a stable connection. And right now, there aren't a lot of people on 5G phones. We have already a few. I mean, there's been releases from Samsung, Huawei, and then now the iPhone. But 5G technically isn't being maximized or utilized as much. So once more people have it, I really hope the infrastructure can handle the volume for these customers. Otherwise, we're probably not going to get the same speeds as I tested right now. Also, I tried 5G on Globe Platinum, so this might actually have an impact on the speeds I'm getting, and whether or not this will change will largely depend on the carrier. So another thing you should probably consider is battery life. The battery on the iPhone 12 Pro Max is great, but coupled with 5G, it actually struggles a little bit. So when I was using the 11 Pro Max, I could easily get to 9 p.m. with about 20-30% charge. With the 12 Pro Max on 5G, I dipped down to the 30% mark way faster at around 6 p.m. So if you want to use 5G, I mean just 5G, when you're in an area that can maximize it, bring a power bank just to be safe. Otherwise, you can go into settings, go to cellular, and under the plan you're using 5G on, there is a section there for voice and data. You can switch it to 5G auto, so the iPhone will figure out when you need 5G and only use it then. Otherwise, it will use LTE. That way, you're saving a little bit more battery life if you don't really need to use 5G. Now that we're done checking out the features from the front, let's take a look at the back. The iPhone 12 Pro Max comes with a new camera system that's much larger than any in the lineup this year. It has two standout things going for it. First is the LiDAR sensor, which allows you to take better low light photos and videos. And you also have sensor shift, which makes your videos more stable. So both of these help make the iPhone 12 Pro Max's camera system and photo quality much better than its predecessor. Apple has additionally released a software update for the 12 Pro and Pro Max, which enables Apple Pro RAW. So typically, when you take a photo, you get the iPhone and iOS processing that photo to get you the best result. It decides things like the colors and the exposures and the shadows for you, so you don't have to. With Apple Pro RAW, you ask the iPhone to loosen up a bit and let you handle the processing after you take that shot. So this allows you more flexibility and control over the shots you take on your iPhone. So not everybody really needs Apple Pro RAW enabled all the time. For one, it takes significantly more storage. If you have the setting enabled, it takes about 25 to 30 megabytes per shot versus 4 or 5 if you have it turned off. Another is if you aren't planning on editing the photo, it doesn't make sense to store it as a raw file. You will have to do some edits to make it look better. I'll show you a couple of samples a little later on. But if you're just planning on uploading it on social media, maybe Facebook or Instagram, by all means, keep it off so that it saves you a bit of time. Now, let's take a look at the photos from the 12 Pro Max with and without the Pro RAW setting. I'm also going to include there a photo or photos taken with the iPhone 11 Pro Max, just so you can see the difference between the two. So based on what I've seen for the 11 Pro and 12 Pro Max, the difference is very minimal. I just noticed a bit of a warmer tone for the 11 Pro Max, but other than that, it's generally the same quality. The difference is in low light. So I have here a few shots taken at night. You're going to see the lights are much brighter with the 12 Pro Max versus the 11 Pro Max. Now, talking a little bit about Pro RAW, there is a difference in vibrance and a difference in the photo quality. You have some of the colors faded and washed out. The Pro RAW format allows you and actually wants you to do post-processing and edits on this. Whereas just taking a photo without Pro RAW gives you a photo that the iPhone thinks is the best. So you're getting great photos from the 12 Pro Max, and it's even a pretty decent jump compared to the 11 Pro Max. It's not as noticeable with daylight shots as you've seen, but with night shots, the 12 Pro Max definitely beats the 11 Pro Max hands down. There are other outstanding upgrades to the iPhone 12 Pro Max that Apple makes standard every year that they release a new iPhone. You get the better processor with the A14 chip and more RAM. This allows you to play games seamlessly like Genshin Impact. Play it at 60 frames per second on the highest setting, your iPhone won't even stutter. It's also rated at IP68, meaning you can dip it in the pool for 6 meters and it's not going to break the phone, though warranty doesn't cover. It still even has a comparable battery life to the 11 Pro Max, even if it has a smaller physical battery inside of it, so you can still use it as much as you want to, just not on 5G. There are, of course, some small issues here and there from my experience while using the phone. So sometimes I notice when I close apps, it doesn't always immediately close. There's a little bit of stutter when you close apps. Also, the camera doesn't always open when you swipe from the lock screen. So sometimes, like when you're scanning QR codes for filling out the health declaration form, it takes a lot longer than it would normally. But those are fixable through software updates, so they're fine. All in all, I think this is a really amazing phone, and Apple upgraded enough of the parts to make you want to buy it. But in all honesty, I'm not sure this is the phone I'd recommend people to buy. Now, I think Pro should mean you get Pro features, but also Pro support. So what do I mean by this? The 11 Pro and Pro Max, last year's Pro phones, didn't get the Pro RAW feature that the 12 Pro and Pro Max have right now. The 11 Pro and Pro Max are, in my opinion, still very capable devices with really good camera systems, and I just don't get why they wouldn't be able to ship this feature since it was a software update. You spent 70,000 pesos, north of that, which is about 1,400 USD. It gets more expensive in the Philippines, to get a Pro phone, yet you stop getting the Pro features after 1 year. What kind of investment is that? But hey, Apple still has time. Maybe they want to ship this out later when they have new iPhones. I don't know. But if that doesn't bother you, and you have the money to splurge, as I mentioned at the start of this video, go and buy it. It's a really good phone. There are a lot of cool features, especially if you're into photography and you need that really big display, you know, love playing games. It's a great phone. As for me, I'll be using this phone, but I honestly think the iPhone 12, the non-Pro model, is the phone you should get if you're considering buying an iPhone. It's a fairly priced premium device, and if you really want an iPhone, that's what you should get. But that's a topic for another time. That's it for this look at the iPhone 12 Pro Max. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe. If not, well, the other button works too. Let me know your thoughts on the comments down below. Again, this is Ian. Catch you later.